The next thing we're going to do is look at how to actually cut the foundation zone out. Topos behave a little bit differently than most elements in Revit. As you could see, when we cut the section, you could see that it actually generated the grade underneath, right? So that's a pretty smart thing that it does. The other thing that it does is it allows us to basically create a very smart soil negative for the volume of the soil underneath the building. And that's a little bit, I guess, kind of tricky to understand. So let's take a look at it in an abstract form, and then we'll take a look at it in an applied fashion on the building. So the way you do this is by utilizing what's called a building pad. The building pad kind of takes the form of like another surface of the building, right? So it's kind of like you cut the soil out, and the building pad is what you're building the building on. So in terms of, and I'm going to preface this part by saying this is not a feature I often use. So in terms of the actual BIM management side of it, visibility and stuff, it's really kind of up to you how you want to view it or not view it. But let's take a look at how it works, and then you guys can decide how you'd like to use it in your project if you want to. So creating a building pad. Basically what it's doing is it's creating a family, right? So pads have different types of pads. If you edit the type, you'll see that it has structure. That structure has thickness. So you can think of the building pad as being the slab of your building, assuming your building's slab is like a full, anyway, assuming your slab isn't something like a floating slab inside some other type of foundation wall system. But that's a different detail thing, not for this discussion. So we're just going to leave it at, I guess, the default thickness of 1 foot for now to understand it. So let's create a rectilinear element out here around the pool area for now. And I'll just hit check. Okay. So what this does is it creates a volume like a slab or floor or something like that right here in the space. But if I hide it, it actually created a void that used to live in. Does that make sense? So what it's doing is it's actually kind of creating like a cut volume that can double as an actual piece of the building itself. So furthermore, what this also does is as you sink this thing in the ground, it will actually cut the soil out in order to allow for that pad to exist below grade. So if I change this to -5 feet, you'll see that it actually sunk the whole thing down. And if I look at it in elevation there, it looks like that. Okay, so let's go back into section. Let's pull that section up, go to view, and now this thing shows the full negative. Okay, and similarly, if I change the material of this, let's change the material to concrete perhaps. Cast in place. Let's just do cast in place gray. And let's change it to something more appropriate for a slab, something like 6 inches. Okay. Put it on fine. And now you see that void actually is giving us the beginnings of our foundation. It's not the foundation, but it's the beginning of it. Okay, so that's essentially how the building pad works. So now how are we going to apply that to our building? Well, in case you didn't notice, we don't really have a slab yet in our building. Okay, so we're going to create that slab with this family. But I want to just kind of point out that slab will actually have to align and follow all of the bumps of the building. So let's modify this. We're going to set this to 0. And we're going to do an edit boundary. And now I can actually draw, and I'm just going to do an example on this side. So I can use the picker tool, and I'll have to actually trace all the way through each of these wall elements. That's okay if it does that. And to simplify this, I'm just going to kind of yank that back this way. and close it off over here. That to there, that to there. Oh, look at that. That was duplicate. Interesting. Oh, okay. We had another duplicate. Can't create a single with several connected regions. Oh, okay. I need to get rid of this one. Okay, because the pad can have separate parts. Okay, so what you can see this is doing is the pad underneath the building is actually sticking down below the site. So let's say we wanted to have perhaps a basement. We could, I'm just going to real quickly kind of copy this just to show you an example. Whoops. Yes. So let's sink this down like 10 feet. So that thing jumps all the way down. I'm going to create a quick floor. You guys don't have to do this. I'm just doing this to show you. Paste. Line 2, level 1. Check. Boom. Go to section. So now we've got a space with a basement. Okay, this actually probably would be more like something like that. Okay, so anyway, all I wanted to communicate to you was that you can use the pad element in order to create those voids in the topo surface. Okay, otherwise, if you're going to be using a lot of like the the floor surfaces and stuff like that, then you're going to have to go back in and draw all of this earth hatch around the space, which isn't that big of a deal. There are a lot of other BIM functions associated with Topo. You can use a quantity takeoff for like how much soil and stuff you're displacing and everything. Yeah, so anyway, that's Topo surfaces. All right, now, what do I want from you guys? What I want from you guys is to develop the building pad for the footprint of the building. So go around the whole exterior wall. And then we're going to use that to kind of help calibrate, I guess, some of our detailing and stuff. So, okay? What questions do you have? Yes?
Actually, I already have a floor underneath my entire first floor.
Yeah.
Can I use that from the whole in as well?
You can. Well, no. You can't use that family, but what you can do is what I did here. When I moved this down real fast, all I did was double click into it, select the profile, and I copied it. Then I sort of, I deleted that, and then I basically said, okay, let me just do a new floor. So in your case, you're going to say, okay, let's do a building pad. And then you're going to activate it and say paste, align to selected levels, and align it to level 1. And then you've just taken the profile of your whole floor, deleted the old family, and then created a building pad with the same profile. Just like that.
I don't see how that copied information would create a new floor.
Well, I'll show you real quick. So did I already delete that floor? I did. Let's go here. Okay, copy that over here. All right, so we've got a floor. I need to create a new type of floor, like a building pad. All right, I can't just change it to a building pad. So if I want to create a building pad, I have to select the profile. If I want to create a building pad that has exactly that profile, right? Copy the profile, delete the floor, and then go to Massing and Site, go to Pad, and say Paste, Align to Selected Levels, Level 1. And there's the building pad with, well, it needs to be on the topo, but there's the building pad profile. You guys might need to actually carry the topo around your whole building footprint. That's important to note. Or it might just have to touch it. I'm not entirely sure yet. I think you have to carry it around the whole profile of the building. I'll test. I'll test that while you guys are working on it. Okay. Any other questions?
No, can we use it as kind of like you want to make a pool, kind of like we use it as a sink?
Yeah.
Comment, so
Yeah, you can use it to create a pool.
then
I'll-
we can kind of like use it like a.
Well, let me show you real quick the kind of thing that you'd have to do for that. Well, pools are different because an underground pool is going to have like a lot of weird slope and stuff, and I would suggest actually modeling that in a different software and linking them as a family. But in a general sense, in order to create the pool, you just do a building pad, and then just select all these lines. And then move that to be like negative 10 feet. And then that's just a cutout of the ground. But if you want to create like a wall, like a concrete wall that goes around it, I'm just going to do this out of generic wall right now, but let's do a generic 6-inch wall. Grab this. You can actually do it using this tool. And then just change the heights. So this is going to start at negative 10 feet, and it's going to go up to probably like 2 inches above grade. Oh, level 1. There. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's like a super primitive version. Okay, like the whole bowling of an underground pool really requires more like NURBS curves and like warped surfaces and stuff. So I'd say just model that in Rhino. And then you can export it as like a Collada file or export it into SketchUp. You can insert it that way. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, let's get working on the topo.